This is the Furlough Podcast, brought to you by All American Ford in Aniana, Alabama. Stop by and see John Makovica and his team today.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Furlough Podcast. I have the pleasure of having on Jana and Mark from Snack a Little, Talk a Little podcast. They're out of California, San Diego, I believe, if I'm not telling a lie on that. You guys online?
Yes, we're right here with you.
Right
Absolutely.
here.
Welcome, guys.
Hi there, Chris.
I ran into Jenna via the big world of social media, and I have to say it's been a pleasure. And
Absolutely, likewise.
So what drew me, Mark? I have to admit, I've already kind of admitted it to Jana, is when she sent me her first voice recording. I was like, oh my God, who is this? And so I let a couple other people listen to it as well, and they were like, oh my God, who is that? So you definitely have the voice for media.
Thank you very much.
You can't see, but Jana's turning red right now. She is blushing like you wouldn't believe.
Well,
the thing is, Chris, is that actually this is just my on-air persona. I'm 100% British, and usually I sound, hello, love, come over and give us a kiss. This is just for on the air.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. I just know
the truth.
Yes. Well, I just know that we met through we got introduced through a podcast group actually, and
podcast world.
Yeah, and so what I'm trying to do is reach out to multiple people that I think that have a show that would interest me to listen to, or have a story or something. I'm not too big into self-helps or entrepreneurial things, is even though I've gotten some of that request and talking to some of those people, and they're great people. But what I found about you guys, what you've got going on, I really like, because it's I think a lot of people, no matter where you're from, do this. They sit around, they snack a little, or talk, eat a little, and then they talk a little.
That's right. That's what Mark and I thought.
Yeah, I mean,
we actually been doing this for years, and then we decided, you know what, we ought to turn this into a podcast.
And now we're afraid to talk outside of the podcast because we don't want to waste good material.
That's right. Yeah, we'll start talking about something. And it's like,
you're absolutely
stop, save it for the show.
It's funny that you say that, because Dave, who started this show with me, he's, due to work and different life things going on, he's kind of faded out. But he and I have been friends for a long time, and we got to where we were like that, because not only did we do the show together, we would talk to each other, and we'd have to constantly say, okay, wait a minute, let's not talk about that, let's save it.
Right. Because you want your reactions to be organic and
organic.
True.
Absolutely.
Want to pretend later that you're just as shocked as you were the first time.
Exactly. And
you get it.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's I'm messing around with my little thing here. But yes, that little thing.
I didn't know it was going to be this kind of show.
Well, whatever.
It's the Fur Low show.
Yeah, Fur Way. That's right. So it depends on what you want to listen to. That's right. So talk to me. I mean, first of all, I think I got the wrong misconception. First thing, I thought y'all were married, but you guys aren't married, and you're not a couple. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so
we do get that sometimes.
Yeah,
well, we get that often. We're actually really good friends.
Tell them how we met.
Well, we met through Facebook, actually.
Really?
It was a mutual friend, and Jana, who is hilarious on Facebook.
Only.
Not necessarily in person, though.
That's right.
And we became Facebook friends, mainly through this other friend and different subjects that we talked about. And one time, this friend came back into town, because Jana and he went to school together. Mm-hmm. And that's where I actually first physically met Jana. And she invited me to some family event at her house or something. And we just started hanging out. And, we are not each other's type when it comes to romance.
Right.
Okay.
Which is odd in guy theory.
Yeah, because everybody says, well, guys and girls can't be friends or whatever.
Right.
I think I've debunked that a little bit myself, because there's some girls that I'm really fond of, have a lot of feelings for, but not in that way, and I carry on a really good conversation. I think.
Well, I've had that argument before, and most of the time I lean on the thing that guys and girls can't be just friends. But I got to tell you, Jana changed my mind on that. It almost sounds like an insult to you, Jana. Sorry.
I'm not insulted, because I agree. I have many male friends, and
Yeah, but you don't know their intention.
well,
I do.
You are right. Sometimes I have found out
women
years
are,
later.
and Chris, you tell me, in your experience, women do not understand the intentions of the guys that are being nice to them all the time.
When I'm
I
cracking your
wholeheartedly
back,
agree.
then the guy's thinking.
But
just a little
Jana and
more.
I, we have both at different times been, or I should say, at the same time. There was about a 2-year period when we were both single, and we still hung out together and did things, but there was never anything beyond that neither of us desires.
You didn't mess it up, is what you're saying.
Right.
You didn't mess up the
Right.
relationship. Yeah. Well,
So,
we can.
And so because we've done so many family events, her family has adopted me into their family, and I spend holidays and birthdays and stuff with them. So much so that we have so much shared experience that we have in-jokes and stuff like that, just like you would with any other friend. And that's what makes our conversational style of our podcast so friendly. It's because of that.
Right.
So what got you guys going as far as, I mean, obviously we touched on this a second ago. You were talking about just food. I mean, you thought you could come up with a different type of food every time, or do you go back to the same things, maybe mixed a little different? What's your goal as far as obviously conversation's good, but what's the food end of it? Are you looking to introduce people to new things, just try weird stuff, or
Kind of all of that. So
Okay.
we'll go back about 4 years. I was actually on a radio show that was about food and entertainment, although I was the entertainment reporter, but I got to try a lot of food because there was a food critic on the show and a chef, and I love food. I love food. And I enjoyed that. And so when Mark and I started talking about having a podcast of our own, that was something that I did want to include. And there are things that I want to try that I've heard about that it's like, why not? Why not now?
And she is always experimental when it comes to food.
Oh, yes.
So her house is the largest house of the family right now down here in Southern California.
Okay.
So we have all of our family events here. And whenever we do, she always has something unique. I mean, this is before the podcast. She's always, I read about this, or I heard about this. So everyone try it. So this is who she is. She's like, try this weird, funky thing that may or may not taste good, and let me see if you guys vomit.
All right. So what was the worst thing she threw on you, or what's the worst thing you've had on your show so far?
Was it the toast?
On our show, maybe the coffee toast.
Crust coffee?
Oh no, the crust coffee. That wasn't that bad. It was just
bad.
weak.
You didn't
For the show that she does choose things for the most part that are going to have a positive thing. I think she hasn't tried to feed me anything.
Because I try it too, so there's never going to be anything disgusting that crawls around in my garden ever. Ever.
You don't want to shake it up a little bit and say,
No.
we're just going to go a little something. Let's do something gross this time.
No, because she knows I could still, even though we have all this equipment in front of us, I can still reach across the table and strangle
We're not
her.
that far from each other. No, because I like to try it too. So I want it to be something, I don't necessarily know that it's going to taste good, but it won't be completely disgusting, hopefully.
All right. So really, I guess I'm getting that you're wanting to, almost like a foodie, you're wanting to always be positive with whatever you're trying.
I'm not a snob. My
not?
foodie friends are snobs. I love you all, but they're snobs. If something doesn't appeal to me, I won't try it. Sorry, did I swear and didn't know it?
No, you didn't. I actually misspelled.
Oh shit! So is that bell your edit button?
Well, it is on our show, Chris, we use the bell whenever someone says something slightly suggestive, either uses a cuss word or in lieu of a cuss word or
sometimes just because.
Now, do you use
just
that?
got a little accent to put. It's like
That's right.
because in speech we don't necessarily have a bold or italics function in our speech, so we kind of use the bell.
That's right. It's the exclamation point, or
Well,
like you said, the beep.
Well, I know Jana's background a little bit. Now, do you work in broadcast yourself, Mark?
I've worked in media my entire life. I mean, from when I was a little kid, back in the day when I went out to the garage and I found a wind-up 8mm movie camera.
Nice.
My life has never been the same. And I used to mow lawns to finance my film habit because I used to try to make movies when I was a kid. And
excellent.
In high school, I was in theater arts because
I have a friend that's making a movie this year.
Yeah, so
very excited.
So I've been involved in low budget movies. I've been involved in some TV movies. I've worked in news, broadcast news before, and I was a freelance commercial producer for years and have produced a couple thousand commercials.
Nice.
A lot of cable TV stuff, and I'm also a big movie fan. So I'm a big movie nut. So it's
too bad you can't see my other wall then. I got movie posters on the other wall.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. You're a movie guy.
I am a movie guy. I have a friend that is finishing up his first movie that he's written. We're going to film it hopefully this year if everything lines up. I am working on the fight choreography because I'm in combat sports and martial artist. I've done that all my life. And so I'm working on 2 fight scenes for the movie that are going to be in it, and so it's going to hopefully a big year for us.
It's great. It's great working in the media. Like I said, I've done it all my life. In fact, Jana had mentioned the radio show that she was on, which I was actually on the television version of that radio show with that same host. We have out here a guy who's been doing a PBS show for local PBS out here for many, many years. My gosh, 20 plus years, as long as I could remember. And at one point on social media, he was looking for a co-host because his co-host had backed out at the last minute. And I ended up being on 2 of his shows.
Oh, cool.
It was one show, it was an hour long. We did two different restaurants. And it was great because I had actually met the guy a long time ago because we used to rent from the same rental equipment place. And so, that was, it's fun to be in front of the camera sometimes as well.
And if you like to eat, Chris, it's a good gig.
It is a good gig, yes.
They're bringing you the best of everything. The thing is you have to pace yourself because you got to save room for the next.
Oh yeah, you got to eat the little
2 restaurants in the day.
We did two restaurants. In the first restaurant, now I'm a pig, Chris. I eat a lot. And it was so dang funny because the first restaurant we're at, it was a Brazilian barbecue place. So it was a lot of meat, and I'm a meat guy. It was like, and I had never done a food show. Certainly I've never done a food show where I was in front of the camera. I've done stuff behind the camera before. But I sat there and I ate like a pig. Once we tasted it, well, I wanted to taste it all. And
you wanted to eat it.
And it was like, okay, let's move on to the next restaurant. And I'm like, freaking next restaurant. You're going to need a forklift to get me out of this restaurant. We went to another one, and food habits are food habits. Oh my gosh, I swear, I probably put on 10 pounds that day, literally, because because I didn't,
you didn't have a plan.
Tastes. I didn't take tastes. I ate the food.
Well, it's hard when there's good food in front of you. You're like, but I want more. But the great thing is if there are leftovers, usually the host didn't want it, so he hasn't boxed it all up and sent it with you.
There you go.
Well, that didn't happen to me.
Oh.
Maybe because I wasn't showing cleavage.
Oh, ding! That's right.
You were showing cleavage.
the power of the
Although
cleavage.
Considering how much I ate, I think I had cleavage after that. I put on pounds after that one.
Good times.
What's and I hate to even ask this question because I should have done more show prep, but I've been traveling so much. But how long have you guys been doing this particular podcast?
This podcast has been under a year.
Yep.
Under a year.
Yeah, we're as of this recording, we're on our 13th show.
Okay.
And we've been doing it almost every week. I think we may have skipped 1 or 2, but we try to get something out every week. And ahead of time, because I am a production person, we didn't just fall into this. Jana's been on me for a while to do this, and it took a while for us both to make the commitment. And so we have done at least 2 shows that will never air, that were prep shows that we did just to get the feel, make sure all the equipment's working, get a format, get an idea. And that was one of the most valuable things. And like I said, from a production standpoint, from my perspective, it's better to do something like that than to have your first show be very clunky and very slow or something like that. You know, it's
I agree.
good to, you got to have a couple. It's like theater. When you do high school theater, you got to rehearse, then you do the show.
Well,
Exactly.
We do prep, but we try not to do too much prep, because again, it comes back to that wanting it to be completely organic reactions. And
so you kind of get an idea what you want food wise.
Yep. Right. Yep. Exactly.
That's good though.
As we do this, and I don't know if it's the same for you, Mark, I haven't asked him.
Because we're saving it for the show.
That's right. The ideas keep coming. It's like, oh, and I have another one. Oh, I have another idea. And so,
yeah, because my show was a little clunky in the beginning because I didn't put all my first stuff out, and I totally agree with you guys. You know, I did a few test runs, if you will, trying to figure it out. But I go back and I listen. It's kind of funny because I haven't been in media or production as long as you have, Mark. But you know, when I have the experience, so when I go back and listen to my first ones, it's like, ugh. You know,
what was and then doing?
Yeah, and then it just gets better and better. And I guess the highlight is the fact that it does feel like it's getting better and better, and a little bit more natural, if you will. I've never had a problem with public speaking, but I think it was just more the getting everything lined up, making sure all the buttons were pushed. You know, don't dump a recording. You know, all your typical fears is like, I lost everything.
Right.
You know, I have to say that another reason we thought that doing a podcast together might be interesting, we hoped, is because we're very different in our approach to certain things in life. Mark is more of a skeptic. I'm less of a skeptic about a lot of things. I can sometimes be a doormat. Mark is completely opposite of that. And so we thought that having, you know, some of our opinions align very much. I would say when it comes to, like, you know, morally speaking, some of our political beliefs are very similar, but there are a lot of things about us that are very different. So we thought it would be great because we're not going to have the same opinion about everything.
Well, it adds flavor, right?
Right. No one wants to hear something, 2 people agreeing with everything all the time.
Yeah, it's
right. No, you.
No, you're right.
No,
you're right.
Darling.
Oh, that's great.
Well, speaking
of course, there's the ghost in my house.
God, you beat me to it. That's exactly what was about to come out of my mouth, talking about skeptics.
Well, at least one.
Yes. And it's funny because when you mention that to me, that of ghost things and whatnot, I had Miranda. She is a paranormal investigator. She runs a show. You can get her on YouTube. I think she's just signed with one of the major format people. So hopefully her 3rd season. She has 2 web series or 2 YouTube series that are out already. And I think, and hopefully I'm not lying, Miranda, but she signed with somebody. I'm not going to mention who. And hopefully they're going to create a spot for her. But she came in, and I want to say the first show we did, it was pushing 3 hours, and it was constant.
That must have been good stuff.
Oh my goodness. I highly recommend anybody. I did 2 shows with her. The highest number show, episode 60 something, was only an hour. She came in, that was her 2nd show in, and we did it Friday the 13th, ghost show, right? And which was awesome. But that first show, if you want to know anything about paranormal, if you have any questions, Dave and I came up with and my wife Amber came up with every question we could imagine to ask a paranormal investigator, and she did not blink an eye. She either answered it
that's great.
quickly or absolutely didn't know what we were talking about, so didn't tell any fibs.
So where do you fall when it comes to the paranormal?
Well, that's a great question.
She's my co-host.
Yeah. I had an experience, and it's on the show. I discussed it on the show. I have 2 experiences as of the time of the show, and I discussed it on the show. And then after the show, we actually got to go on an investigation with her locally. She's
sweet. Good
she's from
times.
another state. She's from Tennessee. She came down to Alabama, and we took her to a place that was, quote unquote, had some activity. And I went in with totally open mind, but no, you know, no thoughts of anything really going to happen, right?
Willing to be convinced, but still a skeptic.
Right. And so she brought somebody with her that was a paranormal investigator. So I was watching one, Dave was watching the other to make sure no shady things were going on.
Mhm.
And I will tell you, things happened that I cannot explain, and I should have ran out the door.
That is, you know what? I say that phrase often, that look, I can't tell you if they're ghosts or not, but there
Mhm.
are things that happened while I was there that I just cannot explain.
Well,
You mean
her
here?
claim to
Yeah.
fame, her claim to fame is she takes these little mag lights, the twist kind. They don't have, and I'm not giving
Oh.
away anything because it's all on her show. But the little
Okay.
bitty mag lights that have the twist heads on them, you know, where no buttons of any sort. So on her show, when I was watching her show, she gets the ghosts to turn those on and off.
Right. We're
And
familiar with that. We've had that happen.
Yeah.
okay. And so, of course, my first response watching the show was bullshit. And
Right.
Uh-huh.
well, I took exactly.
I know
And
it's your show, but we could cover that on our end.
it's all right. That's all right. My show's free reign. You can just say whatever you want to.
Excellent.
But so I took her flashlights apart,
Right.
checked them out. You know, I do engineering work, so I'm looking. I'm a realist. Yeah, I know things are capable. Movie magic. You can do all kind of things. So I'm
Right.
looking for any anomaly. Put them back together, no issues. But I will tell you that when she was asking questions in a place that she had never been to before in her life, ever, and I know that for a fact because she had never heard of this place, and we took her there as somebody that we know that's place. Those flashlights turned on and off when she was asking questions, and it was crazy.
So since that time, have you looked up like some of the people that tried to debunk the flashlights and why it's just a scam?
Well-
Especially because of an engineer. There is a video that
Uh-huh.
debunks. Well, let's put it this way. From my perspective, it nearly completely debunks the whole flashlight thing.
Okay.
It's a really good explanation, and it makes a lot of sense from a logical standpoint.
Uh-huh.
The only problem, and we'll,
Yep.
I'll have Jana give you a link to that or something later
Sure.
on. We don't
Yeah,
need
yeah.
to discuss it right here.
Sure.
But the thing is, even considering this explanation for the random flashing of the flashlights, when we had that done at Jana's,
An
because
investigation at my house.
she had investigation people out here. When it happened at her house, it just seemed like, even if it was random, how do I explain this? It seemed
One
more than just random.
coincidence.
It was
Yeah.
more than just coincidental based on random flashing, because we had 2 or 3 flashlights in the room,
Mm-hmm.
and it was certainly leaned more towards more than just a coincidence than it
Right.
did of it's random and they're asking questions on a beat.
Yeah,
Right.
It's not like we waited an hour and finally it came on or went off. You're like, oh,
Right. And said,
finally.
it finally an answer. There were times when it seemed like they were actually getting a response from the flashlight.
Absolutely.
Well, I will tell you.
Already knowing about the debunking.
Well, I will tell you this. The flashlight turned on for me when I asked a question.
Did you
That
pee a little
happened for
when
me
that
too.
happened? Little drip come out?
Well, I will tell you that it's been
That
a
happened
long
for me
time
too.
since that much chicken skin come up my arm.
I hear
And
you.
because what was awesome about it, there was multiple cameras around the area that she filmed it. They filmed it also. She's actually going through it and is going to try to put it on some of her episodes. And this is a public place too. This was in
Right.
a
Mhm.
facility. This is not somebody's home. This was a public place. That it was after hours, and lights were set up in different places. And we actually picked up only a couple lights in a certain area would come on. We moved those lights. I physically took the light that was turning on and off, that had turned on and off, and swapped it with another light that had not,
Right.
and put it back. and the one that got swapped started turning on and off.
Seriously, I was just touched right back here. Oh my gosh, I was just touched.
Now she's getting the chicken skin.
She's getting it. There you go. But
I
that's the
didn't
kind
feel
of,
anything on my side of the room.
I started feeling it cold back here, and I turned around and I got touched.
but that's the kind of people. I say all that to not to. I say all that not to get off track, but that's the kind of people that I like to get on the show, you know, and people like yourselves, and your show is interesting because if anybody watches my show, I'm so eclectic. You know, I go from, you know, MMA fighters to pro wrestlers to comedians to paranormal investigators to musicians and people like yourselves that are discussing food and chit chat, you know.
Right.
That's right.
And we generally in our show, because it is called Snack a Little, Talk a Little, we do the snacking at the opening of the show, and we have usually our last segment, unless we have a special guest or something, is Paranormal Corner.
Really?
Where we feature every show, we have a paranormal story, mainly because the Victorian house that we have the studio here in, which is the Jana's
that
house.
I was just touched in.
That
on
she
my
was
back.
just touched in while we're talking about this stuff. And by the way, it does tend to happen when you start talking about stuff.
Yeah, I'm getting the chills again.
But we end the show with Paranormal Corner because Jana has experienced so many things in this house that even if you discount 90% of them, the 10% is still overwhelming enough that it's like something going on here.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, it's not
Mark
like
has
it's
experienced some
it's
of it.
it's not like, you know, she's been here 8 years or something, and you know there's 10 stories to tell. No, there's hundreds of stories to tell. So even if you discount the stuff that could be the wind, the lights, the cats, there's still enough stuff there that there is something definitely going on here.
And I have to tell you, you know, people will say, "Oh, well, it was the pipes, and you know, your pipes in the house, and it was the house settling." And listen, I wasn't born yesterday. I kind of know the difference. Not only that, there's a feeling. There is a feeling. Now, my house doesn't feel heavy or gross or frightening, or you know, but there are times when you just know that something has changed. The feeling in the house changes.
Right.
So people who know, they know.
and that's why we have, you know, every show we have our I can't even say it.
Paranormal.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Paranormal Corner at the end of the show, because we close out with something a little bit mysterious and a little bit spooky, if you will.
Yeah. So what is now when besides that, when you talk a little, what are some of the subjects you guys like to touch on the most?
Well, let's see here. You know, a little bit of everything. So for example, recently I talked about grocery store etiquette.
Right.
It's kind of a beef.
And that's coming up again, by the way, because now I have a beef with the grocery stores.
Do you have a beef too?
Basically, it's like real life things that happen to us in real life. We try to keep the subjects varied, but there is, you know, except, you know, food obviously at the beginning of the show, Paranormal Corner at the end of the show.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, you know, things that either bother us that particular week or something that has come up.
Something great
not necessarily in the news, because we're not a daily radio show. I mean,
right.
Obviously that's the difference between podcast and radio show. It's that being timely isn't necessarily a priority for
right.
us. I mean, we did do a Christmas Around the World show, and that was very timely. Yes. But other than that, not necessarily. It's kind of like general information or general things about life and relationships.
That's right, relationships. We've talked about the homeless situation, sort of, just because of what I see when I'm out working. I'm out on the road a lot.
I see a lot. I just had a guy on last weekend, Hacking Homelessness. He's from Cincinnati, and for your listeners and stuff like that, if you want to check that out, and he's got a plan. And yeah, I appreciate that. And I think that you know, when we talk about homelessness and whatnot, is everybody wants to help, but you know, you need people all invested. But there's, you know, we always have to remind that there are a lot of people that want to be homeless, you know. There's nothing.
Right.
There's things that you could give them a mansion, and they wouldn't give a crap. They're just whatever. They'll trash it or walk off from it or whatever. That's just who they are. And he talked about that and talked about a few other things. So that was a good. And I know not Seattle. San Francisco is really dealing with it hard as far as California goes.
So
And
is Los Angeles, and so is the Inland Empire, which is
where we're at.
where we live, which
What
is
is-
inland from Inland Empire is what it's called. I don't know what, I'm not sure where
To
they
a lot
ever
of
came up
people
with.
just say LA.
Yeah,
And they
it's just,
figure,
we're the
LA.
greater LA area.
Oh,
We're just
okay.
inland, but there is an area that locally it's known as the Inland Empire, even though we don't have an inland emperor elected or anything like that.
We're
But,
right between the mountains, desert, and Los Angeles Beach.
I got you.
Yeah,
Well,
we're in the middle of everything here.
As you're out there, I mean, this is a great question to actually ask you guys. Is it frustrating? Is it frustrating? I don't, two things that my show really doesn't delve on, I try to stay away from, is religion and politics, because that can really get people,
Yes, it can.
spun out. But not even from a political aspect. But do you find it frustrating, local officials, how they're handling it, combating it? I'm not talking about a right or wrong. Is it just frustrating to have to deal with it, on a day-to-day basis?
Absolutely. It's very expensive to live here. The homeless problem is huge, and it's really not getting addressed.
Right, and especially here in the town that we're in, it is catered to.
Yes.
Everyone's too, and this gets a little bit into politics, everyone's a little too politically correct, and there's so many enablers.
Oh, that's tough.
From my perspective, I mean, Jana has a job where she's out working the streets.
Yeah.
But I've worked through my video production. I've worked with various church groups and also county groups, and I've been out and seen help that is offered and stuff like that. So I come up from a perspective of I've seen what some people are trying to do, but it's become, especially out here in the West Coast, the greater LA area, and San Francisco, as it turns out, it is an industry. There is an industrial complex that is formed based on homelessness. All this tax money, millions upon millions of tax money, are given to these organizations. They don't solve the problem, but they sure hire a lot of people and pay high salaries. And that's the frustration out here in Southern California, especially. For instance, our city, and I don't know, Jan, if you pay attention to the local politics, but our mayor, the mayor that we've had for the last 5 or 6 years, or however, he has made sure that all this money, tax money from the city, and I don't know if it's millions, but it's been designated to one particular group, and I can't think of their name, and it doesn't matter, but one particular group is a religious-based group that is helping the homeless. Mm-hmm. Well, our mayor in just a couple of months is going to step down, because I guess we're going to have an election coming up, local election. Right. He's not going to run for mayor anymore. He is now going to, and get this, Chris.
Oh, I see where this is going.
He is going to be the CEO of this organization that over the past few years, he had made sure that city tax dollars go to fund this organization.
Holy
of homeless people. And now he's going to be the CEO of this organization, and we still have more homeless than we ever have.
It's terrible. Since I started doing this job,
as a Californian, how do you guys not just lose your shit, and go up and
we do. The thing is, and this gets into politics a little bit as well. It is the coasts, and especially our area, is turning less and less conservative, and we have mostly conservative views. And it's hard to when the media out here does not show conservative views, and I mean the local news.
Yeah.
Will not take a conservative side on any issue for the most part, and they will praise the liberal side of issues, so much so that it does sway the populace, and we are becoming less and less conservative out here every time.
Yes.
And the thing is when it comes to situations like this, our local government, our area used to be a hotbed of conservatism, and it is no longer. It's 50-50 right now. And when you have something like this, it's so frustrating, but when all you can do is vote, what else can you do? Especially if the newspaper, who may or may not take the side of elected officials, are not presenting the
whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Because I mean, it's unbelievable. Even on you have your secret groups, for instance, either Facebook or Nextdoor app, which is a neighborhood app thing that kind of cropped up where you it targets where you live, and you can tell your neighbors, hey, I saw a suspicious guy, this or that. But some people, including myself, are pushing a little bit of politics on there, because I was pointing out how ridiculous it was that our mayor, who has made sure that money's been funded to this organization on a permanent schedule in the budget for the last 3 or 4 years, is now stepping down as mayor and going to be CEO of this organization that he helped build. It has not helped the homelessness.
Right. The only change we see is that there are more homeless.
Right. There's more homeless, but the mayor's not going to have another cushy job. But it's frustration. It's frustrating, and I don't know what to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it sounds like you're doing something, though. I mean, if you're willing to discuss it with, your friends and neighbors and what like that, I mean, that's the best thing that anybody can encourage you to do is keep doing that.
Via social media, but it's like, sometimes that's just like standing on the street corner with the bullhorn and yelling, and no one's listening.
The end is near.
To get to their job. Exactly.
The end is near.
I put it out there to let others who are frustrated know, look, you're not the only one. There's other people that realize this is not right, what's happening.
Well, I can tell you, I mean, I'm from Alabama. I've lived in multiple places. I've spent time in San Diego, lived in Hawaii, lived in Florida, been to mostly around the world, not to every country, 7+ countries.
Nice.
But living in Alabama, I will tell you that based off media and whatnot, is California completely is nothing but a one-way street, and it's refreshing to hear that you absolutely are not, because I don't think a one-way street on either side is a good idea. I think that there should be a balance. And last time I was in San Francisco was in 1994, and I had a great time. But now, if you watch, media reports and social media reports, I don't know if I would want to go back.
It would probably be a big difference.
Yeah, I haven't been in a while. So I was going to say it probably depends on where you're at.
Right, depends on where you go. I mean, but you know what? There's the major tourist place. I mean, I was just there this last summer.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really go to San Francisco proper. I was in one of the outlying communities. I had a friend there that I stayed with. We went out to dinner in one of the small little
neighborhood.
I can remember the town, because now this is a little side note. The city that it was, and boy, if my friend hears this, he's going to be so mad I didn't remember his city that I stayed in. But we went out to eat, and they have a little downtown area. But this city has a whole beef with San Francisco, because this city was the first capital of the state of California.
What?
It's a tiny little city, but then after, I don't know how long it was, but it was the first capital of the state of California. Then San Francisco was the capital. And that was before they moved it to a little bit more central into Sacramento. But he said one of the beefs with his little city is that, he goes, don't mention San Francisco, because they don't like it here. Little beef after 150, 175 years, whatever it was. We're not that old of a state.
Yeah.
They still have a beef with that. But it was a nice little downtown area, in a little offshoot somewhat away from the big city. It's all one big city there anyway.
Right.
I didn't see any homeless people or anything there. But this, of course, was not downtown. And usually in any bigger city, the further you get down to the center of town, the worse things get.
What is the...
Here in where we live is that money usually talks, and they take better care of the places where you have neighbors that can pay to have things taken care of better.
Well, that's where the disconnect is, right? I mean, if my neighborhood is beautiful and things are taken care of, and I've got the money, and I don't go in the places that are rampant with homelessness or whatever, I think they live in, well, like everybody likes to say, they live in their own little bubble,
Right.
and that's the same way where I'm at in the Birmingham proper area. I live in one of the suburbs, but I think that's with any town. We have areas that are absolutely need help, and then we have areas that are unbelievable. We have one area called Mountain Brook. It's supposed to be in the top 5 richest areas in the country per dollar of what people are worth.
Right.
Is right here in Birmingham. So they live in their own little bubble as well. You call the police in that neighborhood, and they show up like SWAT teams.
Right. Right.
Because that's what
not so much where we live, and we're both in a decent area.
Uh-huh.
And it's all right.
Yeah.
I mean, although down at the end of my street, I live in a dead end street, cul-de-sac, and where it connects to the main street, it's one of the 2 main streets in town, and there is a homeless encampment that has just started. It's been there for about a month. It's a tent. It's a couple people, and as I drive home and look over there, I have seen people standing up exchanging things with their hands. So I can't say, I'm not trying to be politically correct here. I'm just saying, here's
you don't
what
know.
I thought, because I don't know what it was, but it looked, there was some transaction that was clearly going on.
Yeah.
I know I thought it was drugs, but I can't say for sure.
Yeah,
But
that's
it's been
tough.
there for a few weeks, and I want to take a picture of it. But quite frankly, the people that I saw there do not look like the kind of people that would take kindly to me
taking pictures.
Take a picture there. But I will get a picture in the next few days, regardless, because we have a new city councilman for our area, our ward. We have, I don't know, 8 wards or something in our city. I don't know what it is. I don't care about the other wards. I care about mine. and
well, you have to take care of yours first, right?
Right. And he is a progressive, and he, one of his big things when he was running for office was about the homeless. He wants to help the homeless, although he supports the organization that the mayor is going to go head up. So that's not good. But
that's an easy way to get elected.
I want to hold him accountable.
Right.
I want to hold him accountable. Say, here's the picture. I mentioned it on his Facebook page about 4 days ago, and he didn't mention anything about, because I said, you're the new councilman. What do you suggest that I do to alleviate this problem? I take it very professionally. He never responded to that. So now I'm going to post a picture of the encampment, and I'm going to keep track every week. I'm going to repost it and say, what have you done to help me out? Because these people are doing something that well, number one, it's not legal to sit there and make an encampment right there.
Sure.
But, there's something hinky going on.
It's been there at least, a couple weeks?
It's been there about a month.
Yeah, that would be tough having kids and having to deal with that kind of stuff. I have a son. He's 15, and I just couldn't imagine him having to deal. He's getting to where he's driving and doing whatever, and 16, he'll get his license to where he can drive around on his own, and I just wouldn't want him having to deal with that. And and I'm not saying they're doing that in your area, but if you come up to a stop sign or a red light, people knocking on the window, wanting money or whatever, people do, or just getting in the way. That would make me pretty uneasy.
Well, plus your son, you said, is he 15 or 16?
He's 15.
Okay, so he's only on his first marriage, being from Alabama.
Right.
Is that right?
That's right. Well, some of these girls are scandalous. I have to worry about them. I have actually had to worry about a few girls that he'll show me. He'll pull his phone. He goes, "Hey, look what this girl's texting me," and I'm like,
they start young.
"Oh my god." I don't remember them starting that
young
young.
to me.
Yeah, I just don't remember them. I don't remember the girls being that willing when I was that age.
I was a late bloomer. But I think I'm the exception to the rule, probably.
Yeah, well, I think the status quo is flipped a little bit as far as who's doing the chasing nowadays.
Well, what surprises me, have you driven by these schools and seen what the girls look like? Did they always look like
No,
this?
my parole officer says I'm not allowed to do
That's
that anymore.
right. I have to stay 100 yards away.
These young women have grown up.
Yes, they have, and they have more sense of style, more sense of makeup. When I was I'm 45. I'm about to be 46. And when I was in school in the late 80s, right at the early 90s, girls were putting on like they were putting on eyeshadow with dang paintbrushes, and and it was always some blue or purple, and I'm like, that doesn't match at all. Got their hair.
Back, though. It always does.
Well, I gotta say, I'm a little older than you are, Chris. But in high school, and so, see, one of the great things about growing up in Southern California is the weather is fantastic.
Right.
We
part of the year.
Well, for sensitive gingers like my co-host Jana, she doesn't do well in the heat.
I don't.
Once it gets above 65 degrees, that's it.
I'm staying in the house.
But one of the great things is our campuses, our high school campuses, are all open air. They're like college campuses. They're not. We don't have enclosed high school. And I tell you, the weather's warm most of the time. And when spring hits, or even fall, when schools are,
these girls
used to wear stuff. I mean, it was and I was a little guy. I mean, I'm not a tall man now, but I was a really short little kid. But man, so I had no shot at the chicks back then. But the stuff they would wear, we had some chicks. It was just, I was blown away back then. It was a fantasy dream to see some of these girls at school, because this was back when they had tube tops.
Yeah.
And I tell you, tube tops.
Dittos.
Oh, and ditto jeans. Did you have ditto jeans?
Not that I remember. We may have, but I don't. I probably didn't know what the name was.
High-waisted pants with the saddle around.
But you know what the tube top is, right?
Oh, I know that.
Oh my God, I remember.
That's coming back.
We had this girl when I was in junior high, in 8th grade, middle school, we called it out here, 7th and 8th grade.
Yeah, that's too.
She had a tube top on, and she had this long blonde curly hair. We called her Farrah Fawcett, because back then Farrah Fawcett was a big thing.
Yeah.
I still, just mention that, I still have vivid memories of her and her grapefruit. Been on the tree a little too long. It was great.
Yeah.
Unbelievable growing up out here.
Impressionable young man getting that memory burnt in.
And then I moved up to Oregon for my last 2 years of high school, and it was all indoor school, and it was cold, and you just didn't see all that.
Did you
very
disappointing. The armpit hair on the girl? Or was that not a thing then? I mean, I assume it's always a thing in Oregon. That's actually where I want to retire one day. I want to retire there. Which
in Oregon?
Portland.
Oh, you don't want to go to Portland.
No,
I
know.
To Northwest San Francisco.
There's so much wrong, but there's so much right. Portland is like here as far as having the beach and the mountains.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you've been there, Chris, but.
Yeah, I've been to, actually, I just got back from Port Townsend and Seattle and Washington.
Seattle as well.
Yeah. But that's kind of a hot mess too.
Yeah, Seattle
right?
is, yeah.
Right? Yeah. Since going back to the motherland in England is a little far from my family that lives here. That probably won't happen. But I'll tell you, when I went there, it was like, my people. They were everywhere. Gingers, tasty gingers, everywhere.
One of my brothers is a ginger. Yeah, he's not a big fan of the sun either.
Right? It just doesn't work for us. It's not in our blood. I completely understand.
I'm more of a mutt, so I guess I can accommodate to.
You can handle it.
I can handle the people.
You're military, is that right?
I was, yeah.
In the military?
Yes, okay. I was former military. So yeah.
Were you already used to the heat, or did you go places where you had to get used to the heat?
I was always fine with the heat.
Always okay with it.
Yeah. Well, you guys get the humidity down there.
Oh, we could. If you like to sweat.
Nope.
This is the place to be. I got off the airplane one time. I'd been on a trip or whatever, and I think I was in Wisconsin or something, and I came back, and there was a dramatic, temperature difference between what was going on in the two places. And I'd been up there for a week, and then when I came back, I walked off the airplane and didn't even make it to the skywalk, but the gap around the skywalk just hit me, and it's like just pulled the air right out of your lungs. You're just like,
I hear you. Yeah. I spent a couple of weeks in Orlando, Florida in July, and I thought I was going to die. It's not for me. I was grateful for the times that we would have the cloud bursts. Everything's fine. And the next thing you know, it's clouding over and you're having 10, 15 minutes of torrential rain. And
That's the one great thing about Florida. You're going to have it all in the same day.
That was crazy. Because we live in a desert out here. I mean, we live in a city that has a lot of trees and it's pretty lush. But temperature-wise, this is a desert. It's dry air. I lived here most of my life. I also went to Orlando once, and this was back before I started wearing shorts only all the time. I was still wearing jeans. We walked out of the airport, and I started walking slower because everything was sticking. I was like, what is happening to me? I had never experienced humidity like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, I ain't never leaving Southern California. I'll go visit other places.
Yeah.
But man,
you don't like to get waterboard
killer.
on a regular basis?
Oh my gosh. I also do some tennis reporting, and I've been to Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
They have a big tennis tournament at Cincinnati in July and August. And I mean, just sitting there in the stands watching people play, it's like taking a bath. It was unbelievable.
And and Ohio's not even close to what we pull off.
Birmingham. You mentioned San Diego a couple of times, and here's a not a foodie. Here's a tip from somebody who likes food but is not a foodie.
All right.
You need to go take your trip to San Diego, and you got to go there and find Hodads. You've not lived.
What's it called again?
Hodad. It's
Hodads.
Hodads.
Seriously, you need to plan a trip just so you can go to Hodads.
Well, give me a little example of what that is.
It's burgers.
It's burgers.
You think you've had it right. I'm going to go to San Diego just to have a burger. I don't know what they do to these things, but they are so good. It's also the ambiance, but they're onion rings. Actually, they're everything. The shakes.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if you're into shakes like I'm into shakes, but I'm really into ice cream and shakes.
I have to be careful. Depending on the ice cream, sometimes I'm lactose intolerant when it comes to certain. It's not all ice cream. I think it's just the pure ice creams or whatever. I don't know, but I can eat some ice cream all day long. Some ice cream.
Hodad has a shake where they not only is it in the tall metal glasses they serve it to you in, filled up, but they take like a pint of ice cream and they clunk it on the edge of the glass. It's this huge hunk that's probably a pint of ice cream right there on the edge. It is just fantastic. It's kind of California's surf burger joint.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Not high end, but the prices they're not cheap.
Yeah,
but dang, you get a big helping of. I mean, it's unbelievable.
So is it sort of like the shake that's off the movie Pulp Fiction when John Travolta goes, "That's a $5 shake"? I don't know if you guys are movie guys, but there's a big.
No, I am. I'm a movie guy, but I can't. I'm so embarrassed because I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh,
I know Pulp Fiction. I love shakes. How do I not know that?
Pulp Fiction is
was there boobs involved? Because if there's not boobs in the scene.
Well, there was actually when.
Yeah, you know what? It's
actually.
Better.
They go to Jack Rabbit Slim's to eat, and they're sitting in the cars. And
it's way better than the shake.
Thank goodness for the internet. Now I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
just pulled it up. No, these shakes better than that, and
okay,
it's great.
Well,
it almost seems like we're shills for Hodads. They're not an advertiser or anything like that. But we love to go down there. There's a couple of them located there in San Diego, and
there's apparently a brewery as well.
And the name of it, Hodad, is actually a very Southern California name.
Okay.
It's a surf term.
Okay.
And it actually comes from the word whore dad.
Oh, daddy.
Oops. Wait. And back when I was in high school, the Hodads or the whore dads were the wannabe surfers. The guys who didn't really surf. They weren't true surfers, but they would pretend like they were surfers.
Yeah, they just kind of hang.
Surfers. They'd go down, hang out like that.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like you were a faker.
Yeah.
But I guess
poser.
Yeah, poser.
Poser, right.
Yeah.
So that's what it was when I went to high school.
Right.
Okay.
But now I guess it's just like anything else, good is bad, bad is good, and it's come to be something that's kind of like, hey, he's a Hodad. Well, that's cool. So they named the burger joint Hodads, and it has a very surf feel, and we have like a TGI Fridays on California steroids.
Yeah, we have a place called Baja Burger here locally that tries to give the Southern California theme, and they're a burger joint, and they got the surfboards hanging and all that good stuff, and their burgers are okay, but I just really kind of chalk them up to overpriced hamburgers. There's nothing really over special about them.
I mean, that has become kind of a thing, having the overpriced burgers. I've had one before that had like oh my goodness, like a maple fig sauce, and it was delicious, but it was also ridiculously expensive. So it's somewhere in the middle. I gotta say, it's worth it though. Maybe part of it
it's pretty reasonable for the price that it is.
It is,
Yeah.
and it's a lot of food.
What about barbecue? How do you get any good barbecue
Bring it.
places? Oh, you can look at her.
Yeah,
She's like,
you know
bring it.
what? We don't really look. We love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I mean, the best barbecue I ever had is when I went to Dallas and was covering a tennis tournament there, and asked around and went to a barbecue joint that was like the Disneyland of barbecue joints. I mean, it was literally, they had switchback lines to get in with about 10 barbecues outdoors that were barbecuing food. It was unfreaking believable.
Yeah,
but
we love our
we
barbecue.
don't have a lot of that kind of stuff here. What do you like, Jana, locally?
So I've never been to this place. So I probably again, here's the foodie snob. They're going to hate me for saying this. I had, back when we had a Tony Roma's here, I had some ribs there and they were great. I wanted to fall off the bone. And I wanted to be coffee. But there's a place downtown. So we have, it's a little bit of a touristy place, the Mission Inn here. It's beautiful.
Very touristy.
Hotel that was built in the early 1900s, I believe. It could be late 1800s, and I should look at the history, but it's beautiful, beautiful Spanish-style building, and they've got a lot of higher-end shops all around the Mission Inn. And they've got a place there called Graham's Barbecue.
Oh yeah, why did I not think of that?
I've never been.
I've
I mean,
eaten
this
at
is
Graham's.
the real deal,
Yeah.
supposedly. So, but I haven't tried it.
Yeah,
I'm sure I
Graham's
like
Mission
it.
Barbecue. It's family owned. It's a local black family that was actually they were actually this is political incorrectness. I'm crazy. They were actually pushed out of downtown because they were revitalizing this Mission Inn. This is
Is he not there anymore?
This may be a much longer story than necessary for your show, but he was. So this hotel that she's talking about is the Mission Inn. It's done in Mission Revival style, like the Missions. I don't know if you know about the California Missions, but out here it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And anyway, it has grown into this thing. And it was actually bought years ago by a conservative, and he built it up and refurbished it and everything. And right across the street was still this family-run barbecue place where the guy would pull his barbecue. I'm going to call it a makeshift barbecue, like out of a 50-gallon metal drum container.
That's some of the best barbecue.
And he'd barbecue on the street. It was right across the street from this hoity-toity fancy place. They bought him out, forced him out to relocate so they could put in a fancy restaurant across the street.
I believe it.
Now, I had gone down to, because this is all in the newspaper, and I knew what was going on. I thought, you know what, this guy is getting the raw end of the deal. I'm going to go down and support him. So my first time I went down there was not that good experience. I don't know, Janet, I don't think you know. Do you know this story?
I think so.
Anyway,
yeah.
I went in there, and this was back when. Now here in California, you're not allowed to smoke indoors.
Yeah.
But this is when you still could. The gal behind the counter had a cigarette hanging from her mouth, and she acted like me and my girlfriend were the last people she wanted. Yeah, what can I do for you? I was just like, what the heck? I am coming down because I wanted to give my money to this guy. Right? Because I thought he was getting the wrong end of the deal. The service there, they were inattentive. They didn't care. And it was just like, man, I really wanted to help this person.
Now, was it at the original place?
Yes.
Okay.
At the original place.
He probably already got that check, so they didn't care. They were just he was
They just looked like people that wouldn't. But so what happened is they relocated them a few blocks away, still in downtown, actually over in front of the convention center that years later, convention center was redone. So hopefully he gets plenty of business because he's now across the street.
Yeah.
But then when I went there after they relocated a couple of years, I went there, and I actually go there once every 2 years. I don't go out to eat a lot downtown. That's a whole other political story. But it's great food. It's reasonably priced, family run. The people are great in there. You know, whoever that lady was, I've never seen her there again. And when I'm coming home through that side of town and I'm hungry, I'll stop into Graham's Mission
I'm
Barbecue
gonna make it a
and get me
point
some
to do
home
that.
style. You know, like I said, it's a black family doing the barbecue, and
Mhm.
it's just,
I worked with his daughter, by the way.
you did.
I
Really?
did here
Oh,
where I
wow.
work.
And I still feel bad that they moved him because, you know, I just think that was wrong. But
So Chris,
that's what we do for
do
barbecue.
you like them saucy or do you want a dry rub?
I like them.
Wait, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
Ribs.
I like it when she asks that way, though.
You know, I was going to say, you're going to take the audio from that and put it on a loop and put it on
That's
your
right.
phone when you go to bed tonight.
Well, I'm definitely. I'll answer that question, but before I get to that, so I don't lose my train of thought, is I always ask if whoever I have on the show is willing. Is I try to get somebody to do an intro for the show for me, because I have this Replay 360 where I've got all this stuff programmed in, and I've got different intros and whatnot from people that I've enjoyed. So I'm definitely going to urge you to record me a couple of things.
It would be my pleasure.
Oh.
he can't even remember what he was going to talk about.
Yeah, I was something
Saucy or
about
dry
sauce or
rub.
something. I'm like, what were we talking about? To answer your question, I sort of about a half and half. I don't like it to where it's just where I feel like I have to wear a bib,
Yeah.
but I don't like it dry. You know, I like a just a good medium amount, and um, I like my sauce to have a little bit of twang to it, if you will. I don't like it to be bland, but and then some people put chow chow on it, which I hate, so I always don't ask for chow chow.
We're both giving each other a
We don't know what chow chow is.
Chow chow is like this. It's like a ground up. I really don't know exactly what's in it. Yeah, it's kind of like cat food. It's kind of gross looking. It
I think I kind of know. I mean, I have heard of chow chow.
yeah, it's kind of got some peppers and some different things, and it's just a little glump of stuff they throw in there, and I'm not a fan of
Sort
it.
of like a relish, but it's just
Yes, like a relish. You're right.
For a relish.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but some people love it. I'm not a chow chow guy. I don't
I
like.
would probably love it, but I don't know if I would want to mix it with my ribs. I just don't know about that.
Yeah, well, they mostly put it on sandwiches more than they do rib.
See, I'd probably like that. Is it hot? I can't do hot.
No, it just has
established. It makes me cry. I mean,
it makes you cry.
Yeah.
My wife likes to eat. My wife likes to eat food that makes her cry, and I ask her why she wants to fight her food.
You know what? If it hurts as much going back out as it does going in, I don't find that pleasurable at all.
That's what I'm saying.
No.
Yeah, you can battle going in, but you're at the mercy going out.
There's only one way out.
Jana is turning red again.
Yeah.
I ding her just for that.
So I like them saucy. Actually, I haven't had a good dry rub.
You hadn't had a good dry rub in a while?
What are we talking about?
Yes. There's facilities that'll take care of that.
Heck, there's homeless guys down the street that take care of it for
Yeah,
you.
Get more than you ask for, though.
Mark, what about you?
I just love, believe it or not, when I buy meat at the store and I grill it, don't barbecue it, I grill it. I don't put steak sauce. I don't put pepper. I don't put salt. Sometimes I like to just taste the flavor of the meat. If
you put sauce on a steak, this is my humble opinion, then you probably didn't cook the steak correctly.
Right.
That would be me. I'm a failure with steak cooking. I need to take a class. It never turns out as good as what somebody else can cook.
Well, I think a lot of people don't understand when you're selecting the meat it is about the selection of the meat, and even when you say you get a ribeye or porterhouse or T-bone or whatever, you can't just say, well, ribeyes are the best and you get it. You actually have to look at the meat, and depending on how you cook it, a lot of people run away from the meat that has a lot of fat in it, but the fat gives it the flavor if you cook it right.
You want marbling.
Yeah, so it just really depends on. We have a guy that's in the local area that talking about food is he cooks a steak and he has these huge ribeyes. They're ginormous. They cover the whole plate. So you go out there to where he's cooking at. He cooks at this little country club. They call it a country club. It's it's a club and it does have a golf course and all that good jazz. But he cooks in the back off a big grill, and you go in and he lets you pick the steak and all that good stuff. And I've eaten in some very high-end places because of work. Work has been very kind to me, paying for some overpriced food.
Mm-hmm.
This gentleman can cook a steak better than any place I've ever been, and he cooks it in the back patio of a country club. It's amazing.
Wow.
I long for that. I long for a good steak because I hear people talking about how I love a good steak.
Well, if we can work you guys, if you guys can
Decent.
ever work out, come to Birmingham. I will take you right down there, and I'll make sure you have and I will guarantee, I can't guarantee it'll be the best steak you ever had, but I'll guarantee you it will be in the top 5.
That's pretty dang tempting. Actually,
Hold on, I'm on my computer right now booking a flight.
I just heard on the radio that there's a place I believe it's called Dwayne's in Hollywood, and they said that's the best place you can get a steak. And not only that, if you go there, you're always going to see like celebrities.
Uh-huh.
And it's not a matter of so seeing a celebrity here, it's not about, it's exciting to me. Oh, what's a celebrity?
Mm-hmm.
It's more about the bragging rights later to say, oh yeah, I just saw Sylvester Stallone. We didn't talk for a few, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just something about being able to say, yeah, it's fine. He's
Right.
short.
Well, who's the most interesting person you've ever looked over and saw eating near you that you can think of off the top of your head?
Not.
Yeah, we can't afford those kind of restaurants, Chris. We just read about them.
Just read about it. Well, I mean, you never
Mark
know.
and I actually both got to, I don't know if this is the most interesting, but it was probably one of the best experiences for me was Jay Leno, because he interviewed my stepfather, who was a top turret gunner in World War II.
Oh, wow.
Jay Leno showed up at the airport that we were at for
They had an air show of vintage planes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we were there with her stepdad.
Yeah.
Okay.
They love
Jay Leno shows up. Jay Leno, he doesn't just show up. He showed up in this monster, old school, steam powered type of car.
Yeah.
I mean, it must have had a plane engine in it. I mean, it was huge. It was, and he showed up, but he brought his camera crew, and he did interview Janet's stepdad, who's no longer with us. But he interviewed him, and he took pictures with us and all that. That was pretty cool.
And would your dad fly?
Where did he fly?
What did he fly?
Oh, the Liberator. It's a B-24.
Wow.
Top turret gunner. And he was a big guy.
Yeah.
When I got into one of these planes and thought, he's up in that little bubble, this man with these broad hunking shoulders, probably.
But he was a kid. He was a kid when that happened, though.
You've seen pictures from back then. He was a big guy still.
Well, here's a little tidbit of history on me. I used to work on warbirds with a good friend of mine. Worked on P-51 Mustang, T-6 Texans, things like that. We used to do general maintenance and upkeep on them for some rich guys here in the Birmingham area that had them.
Wow. Well, part of this, they had a B-24 Liberator. They had
the Witchcraft.
Right, which was painted in the scheme of the Witchcraft, which was actually the plane that Joe had flown in World War II. They had
cool.
a P-51, and they also had a B-17, and it was a trio that they took all around. So we got to see those over and over and over, because when they go on these tours with these things, they go all to the smaller airports all over Southern California, and we would take Joe there, numerous times, because he'd sit there, brought a desk, foldable desk thing. He'd sit there and under the wing in the shadows, and people come over and he'd tell war stories. It was actually a great thing. But Jay Leno was at the Burbank Airport, came in, and that was pretty cool.
It was.
That is cool.
I don't think you and I have actually met celebrities when we've been together.
No, separate.
We've seen people that look like celebrities. But...
At one of those things we saw, quote, Neil Diamond.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but because of what Mark does, I mean, he's probably worked with some, and mine are more just like, dorky run-ins. Well, Sly Stallone and his wife, actually.
Oh, nice.
And he is shorter than
Yes,
me.
he is
Has
short.
big hands, but
Wait a minute, I'm shorter than you.
I didn't
You're
say
a
it was
tall
bad
person.
thing.
Are you a tall lady? Are you a tall drink of water, like they like to say?
I'm a tall lady. Well,
She is.
I'm 5'9", so that's
Okay,
tall.
that's pretty good.
But she wears heels a lot. I mean, not tall heels. I don't want to
Yeah.
start but heels.
Get me distracted again.
I like a line in the back of the stocking. No, don't. Sorry, I'm quoting Van Halen here. So right, Sly Stallone. That one is the first one that comes to mind.
I'm sitting here trying to rack my brain. I can't think of things. All I can think of is tennis celebrities because I also have a career doing interviewing tennis stars.
Okay.
Not stars, tennis players from all the way from the junior level all the way up to the pros.
John McEnroe's and the
McEnroe I've met, but I didn't interview him on my show.
okay.
But Billie Jean King is probably the most famous person that I've ever had to interview and talk with, because she transcends tennis and goes into being a worldwide celebrity.
Right.
And she's been on my show 3 times, and
Cool.
she's fantastic. She's very media savvy and just genuinely a great interview, actually.
Right. That's cool.
Hey, you know what? I talked to Danny DeVito once, and let me explain. So I used to be a dispatcher for not worldwide. It was throughout the United States. It was an electrical company. We were statewide. And we had an electrician who told me that he had done some work for Danny DeVito, and I could see, good thing I'm not there anymore. If somebody heard this, I'd get fired. He said I did work for Danny DeVito, and I couldn't help myself. I called the number while I was working, and I know it was him that answered the phone, and I'm like, oh. So I said, oh, I'm sorry, this isn't Taco Bell. And you could hear the humor in his voice, it's like he knew.
So you had his number in front of you. You knew who it was. And this had nothing to do with your business.
Nothing to do with
you were just out of curiosity. You were like, I've got to call. I got a celebrity's number. I've got to call.
So my question is this during caller ID time or this pre?
No,
it was pre.
Yeah.
I was gonna say he probably looked over there and goes, "Hey, weren't they just out here? This chick."
And I was dating one of the electricians that worked in LA. It might have been the same electrician actually that told me that he worked for Danny DeVito, and he did work at Brandon Lee's house.
Oh wow.
Bruce's son. This was obviously while he was still alive, in case anyone was wondering.
Yeah, I would hope.
And, right. He got an autograph for me, and I remember thinking, "Oh, thanks." I mean, I was grateful. Don't think I wasn't grateful. It was very sweet. But at that time, I'm like, "Who? Okay."
Oh no.
Anyway, I don't know where it is now because there are people that are really into what was it called, The Crow?
Yeah, The Crow.
Right.
Like it's one of those kind of. It's got kind of a cult following.
Yeah, you probably got $1,000 sitting around somewhere in a box folded up.
I know. I gotta find that thing.
Yeah.
Because of my work in media, also one time I was able to, through the local cable network that had the home games for the Los Angeles Lakers back in the 80s when it was the heyday for the Lakers, I got to go to a Laker game, and I got to hang out in the clubhouse where all the celebrities hang out before the game. And I tell you, it was one of the coolest things because the guy that invited me to go with him, I worked with him at the cable company. He was an ad salesperson. He was an old man working there, and I was a young man, really young. And he said, "Hey, why don't you come with me to the Lakers because I know you're a big fan," and they gave me a pair of tickets. Well, we were a guest of this local network. It was called Prime Ticket at the time, but it changed hands a few times. But anyway, I got to meet Chick Hearn, who was the voice of the Lakers for years out here. And it was huge for me, because being in broadcast and all that, to meet Chick Hearn. And the funny thing is right after, because he was so glad to meet the old guy that I was with. And because they used to work in radio together. And he goes, "Oh, and this guy's name, this is a perfect radio name. His name was Downey Huey." He's probably no longer with us because he was an old guy 40 years ago or whatever this was.
Right.
Anyway, in Chick Hearn, everyone is in there. This is before Chick is going to go out to do the broadcast. everyone in there is trying to shake his hand. Chick Hearn sees this old guy standing next to me, pushes everyone aside. Oh my gosh, Downey Huey, my old buddy from Peoria, Illinois, back in the day. And it was so great to see these two old guys be friends again.
Yeah, chuck it up.
And then the guy said, "Oh, well, this is my friend Mark." And and of course, this is before you had cameras on you, so I never got a picture. But I got to meet Chick Hearn. And the funniest thing is, right afterwards, Tommy Smothers of the Smothers Brothers goes up to Chick Hearn and goes, "Oh, Chick, man, you are my great." Chick Hearn blew him off and said, "Excuse me, I'm here talking to my friend here." Blew Tommy Smothers off because he wanted to talk to Downey Huey. And so I went over to Tommy Smothers and I said, "Hey, Tom Smothers, great to meet you. I was my mom's favorite," which is one of the little bits of Smothers Brothers used to do about your mom always loved you best or whatever.
Yeah.
But and then that same night, I don't know if this was at halftime or after the game, but I looked over in the corner and there were 3 guys sitting there that I couldn't believe. And I was like, well, I'm never going to get a shot like this again, so I'm going to go over to them.
Yeah.
And it was Charlie Sheen, Emilio Estevez, and Rob Lowe.
Holy smokes, all 3 together.
It was some of the Brat Pack
Trinity.
right there, sitting there, having a good time. And I was like, I got to go over.
Yeah, you got to shoot the shot.
Rob Lowe, and I said, "Hey, it's Rob Lowe." I reach my hand out. He reaches his hand out. I shake his hand. And I say, "Man," and this was intentional. I said, "You were so great in Top Gun."
Oh.
and he goes from a smile to, oh no, that wasn't me. And I said, "No, I know." And he goes, "Oh, what are you?" And I tell you, for 2 seconds, I was a member of the Brat Pack, hanging out with them, and I was certainly, even though I was young, I was smart enough to know, okay, that's my bit. I'm out.
Yeah.
So
well, that's funny because of the fact that he, was in the movie The Outsiders with Tom Cruise. So so he was probably like, "Oh, he got me confused."
I just thought of another celebrity sighting. This was more than a sighting. John Stamos.
Oh, there you go, John Stamos.
I was at a dance through my church out at the beach. This was a few years ago. I was probably in my 20s. And
you went to the church of John Stamos? I didn't know they had one of those.
I was the leader of the Church of John Stamos. Anyway, there he was with his amazing feathered hair back then, and he was at one of these dances. That was absolutely him, and it was on the band. This is when they still have bands instead of crappy
DJs.
Yeah.
Don't say it.
And we made eye contact. And I told my friends, you know what? When the band comes back on, I'm just ask him to dance. I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen? He's going to say no.
Yeah.
He doesn't know I'll live, but he might say yes. And I don't know how long the band was on break, 10 minutes, whatever it was. And then we lost sight of them and we never saw them again.
Oh.
Damn it.
You should have shot your shot anyway. Says, "Look, you ready to dance?"
I should have gone and nabbed him and said, "Don't go anywhere. I want to dance."
No, you just should have. You should have said, "Do you want to dance?" And he'd have been like, "Well, there's no band playing." Says, "We'll make our own music."
Oh, I like that idea.
There you go.
Man,
I've lied to a few girls myself.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Actually, I thought of somebody else that Mark has seen here.
What's that?
More than just seen. On a game show.
Oh shoot, that's right. I was on The Price is Right.
Oh, were you really?
Yeah. Oh, it was wild. I got to tell you.
And he won.
The people who run the audience and the screening for the audience and The Price is Right should be running our borders, because it was so well done. It was so well organized. I mean, they've been doing Price is Right,
for years.
The 60s.
Yeah, Bob's
so they
a
have
pimp.
it down to a science. And it was a fun day. It was a whole day. Jana was with me the whole time, so I went with her family and her niece. And I actually got picked to be on the show. And in fact, that's a story we should probably tell on our show, because it's a very detailed story.
Anything else?
Whoops, sorry, Chris, gotta go.
That's all right. You got to write it down. Make sure you note that down.
Stage.
Note that down. Note that down.
I got to be on stage. I got to meet Drew Carey.
Oh, so you didn't get to do it with old Bob, man. Bob Barker was
no. I wish, because I grew up watching Bob.
Yeah. I used to date this girl that had a shirt with his picture on it, and underneath it said "pimp."
you said that. You sometimes complete people's sentences, and I thought you were going to tell us that you dated Bob Barker.
No, I did not.
I'm so glad that you did not.
No, but I would have loved to date some of the women he dated.
You did have some cuties.
But yeah, I got to be on the show. Drew Carey got to make fun of me, and I didn't respond because when you're in the audience and it's The Price is Right with Drew Carey, and the whole show is centered around him, and
Yeah.
he's the one up on stage with a microphone, and if he's going to make fun of me,
You just have to take it.
you take it.
Yeah.
I don't have a microphone, and no matter what I say, if I give him a burn, because I could have, but
It ain't making
the
it on that
audience isn't
show.
there to see me.
Yeah.
It's
And it
his
won't
show.
make the cut.
Right, because I actually used to manage comedians in the 90s, and so I know when it's time to shut up and let the person do their show.
Yeah, but you got your personality in there. You
Yeah.
did well.
Oh yeah, once I got up on stage, I got to I said, "How you doing?" to the,
That's right.
the girls that were on there, because I won a bar stool set or a bar set or something like that, and well, go up and sit on your bar. So I get up there and I put my arm on the girl. How you doing?
That's right.
And,
Man,
and after the show, when they kick all the audience out, so all my family friends had to wait, and they talk to you about the details and all this other crap. But
how much taxes you got to pay?
a couple of the I won't say producers, but the people involved in the technical part of the show came down to talk to me and said, "Oh my God, you were hilarious."
Oh,
You
yeah.
said, "How you doing?" Because see, they hear the stuff that the audience doesn't hear.
Right.
Because they're listening to all the microphones and everything, and they thought I cracked them up, and I liked that. I liked hearing that from the behind the scenes guys, because I am a behind the scenes guy as well as being in front of the camera.
And they probably hear all kind of crap all the time.
And I like that I was able to entertain the crew.
Yeah.
More so than maybe the audience.
Yeah, that's all.
So
I only have.
Gary and I are best friends.
There you go. Well, I only have one Hollywood experience, if you will, to share, and I was stationed in Hawaii, and we used to come to California a lot on the ship that I was on, and we came over to San Diego, and some guys wanted to drive up to LA, and I ended up getting on in the viewing crowd of Married with Children.
Oh my God, that is so awesome.
Yeah, that was a pretty amazing, and it was funny that you made the comment about the people that run those shows should run our borders, because it was extreme like that. Because somebody says, "Oh, we got free tickets." Well, when I was young, I was 20, 18, 19, 20, somewhere around there. And I was like, "Oh, you have a ticket, you go in, you got a guaranteed seat." And that's not necessarily true.
Right.
And so we're standing in line, and man, they're just shuffling people, whatever. And so they're counting heads and doing all that good stuff. And we get put in there, which we were very lucky. We were actually the very last of the people to get picked in. But it was fascinating that particular show did every scene twice. They did a scripted version, and then they did a version where they'd let the actors, do a little ad lib, and then apparently they aired whenever they end up liking the best. And that was a pretty fascinating thing to watch Ed O'Neill and all those. And God, I can't remember her.
So great that you got to do that, because living down here, this happens all the time, but we don't go to shows well, how many shows have you seen, Jana? How many sitcoms?
Facts of Life.
Okay, that's pretty good.
That's cool.
George Clooney. He was on that one.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
There are others that
obviously all these shows are done every week. There's shows done, and there's people giving out free tickets. Whenever you go down to Universal Studios or even the mall that's around Universal Studios, there's people handing out tickets, so they need audience members for free.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yet we live here, and we don't take advantage of that as often as we can.
Well, you get desensitized, right? You almost think, well, I'll do it next week, or I'll do it next week.
It is a fun thing to do. I've been to it's Gary Shandling's show when he had his shows
cool.
on Showtime. That was pretty cool. I've been on Conan O'Brien's show. In fact, I've been on Conan O'Brien's show.
Oh, really?
Not only have I twerked on his stage, that wasn't on his show. That was pre-show, but I still won a T-shirt. But I took my wife, and she actually. We got to sit in the front row, and she had made a visual gesture against Conan or something. Well, I mean, that sounds terrible.
Will she shoot him the bird or show her boobs? I mean, which one?
What kind of visual gesture?
Well, he was talking about how he hated cats. Actually, he said cats are dicks.
I don't like
I was gonna say,
anymore.
I'm afraid to say that sitting in front of Jana right now. But she can still reach across the table and strangle me. It was Conan that said that, Jana, and he's a redhead.
Where's this from?
But anyway, he had said that in some kind of joke or something, and my wife kind of did a couple cat claws at him. You know,
Oh,
like,
okay.
rare kind of thing. And he goes, "Oh, look at this gal. She's doing that to me."
Uh-huh.
And the camera goes over to her. And
Nice.
of course, I'm sitting right next to her. And then Andy Richter says something like, "Yeah, but Conan, how many cats do you own?" And he said something like 3 or something like that. And he goes, "See, is that okay, ma'am? Is that okay?" And so the camera goes over to my wife. Conan comes all the way over, gives her a hug. Now, my wife, and I'm not saying my wife is klutzy, but she is. And she stands up. Well, she had her jacket on the ground at her feet. She stood up. She nearly slipped. She did slip, but she nearly fell over. Fortunately, she fell right into Conan's arms.
Oh, that's awesome.
Huge.
He's a tall guy, right?
Yeah, and my wife is very short, but he came over. We were at least the 6-inch step up anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he came over and gave her a hug, and she gave him the thumbs up that everything was all okay. And,
Oh, that's awesome.
and so my wife got to be on Conan as well as me. But I've been to his show about 5 times.
Nice.
But,
I got to bring Amber
tell
out
you.
there. I think that would be a good thing. Amber's never experienced anything like that. I think that'd be a good thing to try to get her on one of those.
Yeah, it's great. I wouldn't go on Conan anymore though.
I'll tell you what was great.
His show's now a half-hour show, and it's down to
When
Oh,
Mark
no.
was on Family Feud, Mr. Hollywood here, and I'm referring
not
to Mark.
Family Feud. You mean?
Sorry, not Family Feud.
I love
Price is Right.
I got
I
excited
did see
for a
Family
second.
Feud filmed.
Oh, see, you saw
But
Family Feud.
This was
film.
Richard Dawson. This is a
Oh,
while ago.
that's the great Family
That's
Feud.
right.
Yeah.
But Mark knew. Well, so first of all, we got there early enough that we had great seats. We were a couple rows back, and right in the center. But Mark knew that if he kept looking at us for help, oh, tell me, help me, that the cameras would go back to his people.
Right.
So we got to be on camera several times as well because Mark would, come on, Mark.
Right.
Mark's a smart guy. Mark can figure this stuff out for himself, but he would always look back at us and play to the audience
Right.
and play
I would,
towards his people.
being a production person, I know what they expect. All day they show you videos of what they expect and everything. And I am a performer, and I want to make sure. So I was pretty good on the show as far as that, and I knew that Jana's niece, who's the one who got the tickets and wanted to be on the show, it was her birthday that day. She wanted to win a new car. I knew that, well, at least I can make sure they get on TV. So every time I had to bid on something, or got my thing, I would look out to them to make sure. I mean, I didn't have to.
No.
Look,
Yeah.
I had this show in the bag. I looked out to them to make sure they got some camera
So
time.
we did.
Yeah,
all got
sure.
our 15 minutes of fame.
And we've also gone together to see Jeopardy with Alex
Oh,
Trebek.
Alex
Remember
Trebek.
that?
God, how old's he
You
now?
don't remember that? We took Joe. We took your stepdad
I
down.
wasn't there.
You didn't go that
I
day?
didn't go.
All right. Well, that
Thanks
was some
for
other
inviting
tall
me.
redhead.
Yeah, but we
Thank
have
God y'all aren't
been to a
married.
we have been to a couple of concerts together.
Wait,
I've never
you didn't-
seen Jeopardy.
I took your mom.
Joe, by the way, as a reminder, that's my, oh yeah, he said that, my stepdad.
Yeah, your
Something
stepdad.
Joe really wanted to do.
Yeah, it was. He watched Jeopardy every day, and he was. I think he was 90 at that point. And
Wow.
he said on his bucket list was he goes, I'd like to go see Jeopardy. So I got tickets and I took him down, and we got to go see Jeopardy. It was fantastic.
Dang, good for you.
And he said, I only want to go if you can make sure not to invite Jana.
Well, apparently you did.
That works.
But
That
we do go
is-
to concerts together, as Jana was
Yeah.
alluding to.
Yeah, haven't made it to Def Leppard yet though.
Oh, Def Leppard fan.
I have not seen Def Leppard yet. I am.
My son wears a Def Leppard shirt, and I don't know if he's ever heard Def
I
Leppard
like
before.
I like him already.
But he wears it. He's an Instagram whore, if you will, and
Uh-huh.
and he did his little photo shoot next to his car and stuff, and he had his little Def Leppard shirt on, and he wears 80s rock bands and stuff, and I just laugh
Good
because
on
I know that.
him.
Yeah, because I laugh because I'm convinced he hasn't listened to any of them. He just
He just knows they're cool to a certain group and get a lot of stuff
Do
online.
you take your
Exactly.
wife to rock concerts, Chris?
My wife actually took me to the Motley Crue concert here not long ago, which was very, and She is a very good lady, and she knows that I love Motley Crue. I always have, and I think she got me within the first 2 rows. I can't remember, and
Wow.
it was amphitheater too, so it was all open air. And
So you know they're touring with Def Leppard and Poison.
yes,
Are you
that's what
gonna go?
if they are coming in this area, I will probably make it.
So you're a fan. So can you give an unbiased review for somebody who's never been to a Motley Crue concert? Because Def Leppard is what I want to see. The other two, I'm like, yeah, I mean, they're going to be there, so I'm sure it'll be fun.
Well, this was, let's see, was it a year ago or 2 years ago? I'm trying to remember. We had the Oak Mountain Amphitheater here in the edge of Birmingham, and it was Motley Crue and Alice Cooper, and it was probably one of the best concerts I've ever been to in my life.
So Vince Neil still got it.
He had it at that one. There was some video that came out that he was not doing so well this past year, and supposedly he's going to get his act together and or have his act together for the new tour. But at that particular show, they were hands down great.
And Alice?
Oh, he was phenomenal. It was unreal. I was so amazed. I'm like, how old's this guy? And between him and Keith Richards, I mean, it's like, and he was so powerful, his voice, and you knew it wasn't lip singing because you could hear him, mess the song. I wouldn't say mess the song, but you can hear it wasn't just
right. The variation.
all the variations. It wasn't a recording perfect. And he put on a monster performance.
Well, I tell you, that Def Leppard, Motley Crue, and Poison, I've seen Def Leppard about 6 times. They are my favorite band of all time. Never seen the Crew. I'd love to. Poison I have seen at a small venue. I also used to, when I did commercials, I would do, I worked with a concert promoter, and I did commercials for the upcoming concerts. And so I got free tickets. So I got to go to see a lot of these bands, and they're on their way up. But the tickets for this tour have got to be insane. And I'm already not going to go because I can't afford. If I can't get seats in the first 10 rows, which I can't afford, I'm not going to go.
Yeah, it's kind of tough. It's kind of tough.
I mean, I would like to have a seat in the front row, or first 10 rows, but for that, I probably would. I'd pay $50, $60 to sit in the nosebleed section. I would do that.
I wouldn't. And the nosebleed seats, I think, for the LA show is like, didn't I send you a message to that?
You sent me something.
Yeah, they're like $200.
Yeah, $200.
Nosebleed in a place that's a huge. In fact, I think they're playing Dodger Stadium, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so you got to bring your binoculars.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But you'll still hear it. There's nothing like live.
Yeah, but I'm banking on, and this is just a tiny percentage of a chance that I might get backstage for that tour.
Nice. Look at
A buddy of
you.
mine owns nightclubs up in Portland, and he has connections up there in the Pacific Northwest, and they're playing in Washington, Southern Washington. And my buddy owes me because years ago, and if he's listening, Frank, you owe me, buddy.
I saved your life in Nam.
No, because last time I saw Def Leppard, they were up in Southern Washington again, and I flew up just for the trip, just to see Def Leppard, and it was Journey. It wasn't Journey. It was the people pretending to be Journey.
Oh God.
Because Steve Perry's not with them. But anyway, they were the opener, so we showed up late. And but it was Def Leppard, and we were in either the 4th or 5th row because he has connections. And this is, oh my gosh, this must have been 15 years ago. This is when he was getting a text on his cell phone, his flip phone. And he goes, hey, look at this. And it was someone says, hey, I see you. I go, what's that from? He goes, oh, I got a friend who's backstage. So here we are. I flew up to see Def Leppard. And he got, we're 5th or 6th row, and he has a friend backstage saying, hey, I see you. I said, get us backstage, dude, get us. He was like, no, I got to play it cool.
Yeah, you got to play.
I got on him about that afterwards. So I thought, this is our opportunity. He said, no, next time. So as soon as this new tour, as soon as the tour was announced, I literally got on my phone and I took a picture of it, picture the ad, and I sent it to him, and I said, time to pay up, pal.
Oh,
so that's not until September of this summer, 2020. So hopefully he's doing some. I gotta, I gotta remind him. I got to remind him every week.
There
You
you
owe
go.
me. I want
Yeah.
backstage, because if I get backstage with Def Leppard, I'm going to be backstage with Motley Crue and Poison.
There you go.
My gosh, my high school stuff is going to love it.
You hit the trifecta, and he's
That's
won.
right.
Wow. Yeah, I've never seen Def Leppard live. I saw Poison, which I was really high, so I wouldn't count that as seeing it. And then, of course, I've seen Motley Crue.
Was it good, or do you know?
I'm sorry.
I said, what Poison, were they good, or do you know? Do you
Oh,
remember?
I mean, it was one of those. I guess there's a what do you call it? There's a time where I can't get in trouble with it. I was a young man, and a lot of extracurricular activities were going on. So it was one of those.
So what was your
I
first
had
concert?
fun. I will say I had fun. I do remember that.
I gotcha. So what was your first concert?
My first concert was God, who would y'all laugh? It was actually my first concert was a country concert, and it was Alabama.
I laugh at that.
Yeah,
Alabama, that's cool.
yeah. My stepdad he's passed away now, but he was a guy that was married to my mother for quite some time. Used to live and was good friends with Jeff Cook, the the guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
And he had actually been over to our house and stuff like that when I was real little, and they were playing in Birmingham. So of course, we got tickets and all that good jazz. But when you're a little kid, I was like, okay, I didn't know much about what was going on. I don't think I was maybe fifth grade, something like that. Then of course I've seen Bon Jovi. I've seen Winger, Bullet Boys, Cinderella. Saw, of course, Poison, seen Widespread Panic, all these people.
Fabulous Thunderbirds were my first concert. It was a date.
The Fabulous Thunderbirds.
Wow, that's old school.
It's old school.
Yeah.
Richard Marx opened for them.
Richard Marx. Wow, that's great.
School. Yeah.
That's 80s, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, really, right in town.
Right
Wow.
in town. Yeah, first concert. It was pretty good.
That is pretty good.
My first concert is someone that I don't even know who it was, but in my head. So my family used to had a travel trailer, and we used to travel all around the West in the summertime.
Oh, they were hippies.
And when I'm laughing because of my parents, they were anything but hippies. But that's hilarious. But we used to go camping all the time. And one time we were at a campground that was in some town. Anyways, across the highway, which you could easily cross, was a park, and there was a live concert going on. And I don't know how old I was, if I was 12 or something like that, I'm guessing. But I decided to walk across the highway, go see what's going on in this park. So I heard music. And I wasn't really into music, but in my head, it was Deep Purple.
Wow.
Now, it wasn't them, but it was a long-haired band playing Smoke on the Water, which I heard on the radio before. And so to me, that's who it always is in my mind.
That's all you knew?
I know it wasn't. There was no possibility it was them. Right.
Yeah.
But it was like, and that's what spurred the rock and roll in me. I was never the same after that. So I always consider that my first concert was a free concert in the park with Deep Purple.
Nice.
I was a pop music girl growing up, and then I heard Cheap Trick, and something just flipped, and suddenly I realized that I was a rock.
There you go. That'd been a good.
And Cheap Trick really is kind of pop rock, but still, to this day, they're kind of like, I broke my rock and roll cherry on.
You probably weren't the only girl that lost their cherry to that group.
That Robin Zander with his long blonde locks, although he probably comes to my navel, looks like. Probably.
I'm going to pretend she didn't just say that, but I'm going to hit the bell anyway.
There you go.
That short.
Well, yeah, but you don't know what you just said.
I don't. I don't always know.
He doesn't get.
Okay.
Oh, I get it.
All right. Gotcha.
I'm going to do that. So, Chris, you're from Alabama.
Right.
You're in Alabama. I'm assuming you're from Alabama.
Yeah, I am.
And it's a stereotype to assume you're into country music. Is that
That is a
correct?
stereotype. I do like some country music, but it's not my necessarily go-to. I'm
I have
very, I'm very
I have
eclectic.
I've rejected country music most of my life, except for the old stuff like Johnny Cash or stuff
Yeah.
like that. But the thing is as an adult, when I go on road trips and I flip around the radio dial, I have become a fan of modern country music. So much
Hmm.
so, we featured it on our show a couple of times at least because it speaks to me.
There you go.
And I'm not embarrassed. Well, I guess I am a little embarrassed. But you know what? I like modern country stuff. It's some pretty cool stuff.
Some of it.
And it's Americana. I like the
Yeah.
Americana aspect
So
of
you're
it.
not so much into like the hunk.
Yeah.
I mean, the, like for real.
I might be. Chris, I'm afraid to, because I'm an all or nothing kind of guy for the
Uh-huh.
most part. I'm afraid to dip my toe any further in the water because I might have to start wearing a cowboy hat and get some boots, and I'm gonna have to be like urban cowboy. I'm gonna have to go through the whole phase.
There you go. Well, I don't know many people that wear the cowboy hats, but I think maybe in Texas.
I was
But
in Home Depot last night, and one of the employees. No, that was today. Was that today? No, last night. And there was an employee there who had a cowboy hat on.
really,
Yeah, it was the funniest thing.
that's crazy. I listen to so much different stuff. It's kind of funny because I listen to stuff and sing to myself and all that good jazz, like most people do. And I listen to all kind of crazy stuff. I listen to things that I don't even think my wife knows I listen to, because when I listen to music, it's usually by myself. And but I listen to everything from thrash metal to country, because I went through this phase when I was 13 to 15 or 16. I was really into heavy metal, thrash metal, and there's this place called Frankie's Underground that that we would go to, and I was kind of a very hyperactive, rough kid, and we would go and go to mosh. And this place was nothing but mosh pits, so we'd be in blue jeans, Doc Martens, no shirt, and just being there, just beating the hell out of each other. And so
Good times.
so good times, and so I went through that phase, where you're listening to everything from Faith No More to Rob Zombie to just all different kind of stuff. And then of course I love blues, and I listen to, and I love blues music. And so to turn you on to one girl, that young girl, that Samantha Fish, if you ever listen to man, this girl is amazing.
Fish.
Yeah, just like, yeah, Fish.
Okay.
And God, man, she's a hell of a guitar player, deep voice, and you look at her and you wouldn't think that kind of voice would come out of her. And then of course I like stuff like Zach Brown Band, different people like that as far as country music goes. And then I've like your typical, radio rock, I guess you could say. And then of course I love hair bands.
Just killed a man, put a gun against his head.
That's right.
I mean, who doesn't like that?
Okay,
Yeah.
two things.
Yeah.
See, this is the problem with doing podcasts and stuff and having life experiences. You just want to jump in on everything.
There you
I can't
go.
help myself. But
That's all right.
you mentioned Rob Zombie. I almost met Rob Zombie.
Oh, nice.
He is not a tall man. Despite
No,
the
but
videos that make him look like he's a tall guy, he's a short guy.
Really surprising.
Crazy
he was
talented.
promoting his movies because he does these horror movies.
Yeah.
He was at the Pasadena, here in Pasadena, California. They had the Pasadena Comic Con. We had a booth right across from his. And on the day that he was there signing, they had a line of people there. And this is when I had my two teenage sons at home who were into that kind of music, which is fine because, and I was like, holy crap, he's signing. And he was signing CDs for like $8 a piece or something like that. I am going to get those for me, one for me and one for each of my boys.
Yeah.
And I went to the line, and I was like, I'm going to wait till the line dies down. This is before I knew how they did lines at comic conventions and stuff. And I waited till the line died down. So I went to the end, and there's a guy at the end of the line that is the end of the line guy. How they do it, that no one else. And I said, dude, we're the booth right here. And when I say right here, it was literally a foot away because the line was. I said, we're here, and I was just waiting. Can't you? That dick would not let me get in line.
Well, you got to draw the line. You got to draw the line.
I know, but we were the friend. We were there all weekend. It was a weekend thing. We were buddies with everyone in the booth except for him. And the day that Rob Zombie is there, the guy won't let me in. So I was not able.
They got to draw the line.
Yeah, but I was a VIP. Don't they know who I am?
You're in the mix, right?
I was so disappointed. I was already disappointed in seeing that Rob Zombie was short. Even though I'm short and I love short guys, because but it was like, he's not a giant. What?
So my ex-husband did meet Rob Zombie, and he got his autograph. He was eating the what the food that they put in the green room or whatever after a concert.
Snacks.
Yeah, but they call it something different. It's fancier. And he had done the fireworks show for this show, and afterwards, actually, Rob Zombie told the
Craft
crew.
services.
Thank you.
That's the word you're looking for.
Yeah, it's not that fancy, but it does sound better than snacks.
Maybe we ought to change our show to craft services.
Yeah, craft.
But I'm surprised because my ex-husband, I was going to say was 6'8". He probably still is. Interesting. He didn't mention that part. So apparently he's short.
Yeah.
But he's a nice guy. He told them, hey, guys, come in here and have some food with us.
Yeah,
nice.
Rob Zombie's main guy, and I can't think of his name, just recently passed away.
Sid.
It's Sid. Yeah, Sid.
Yeah.
God,
Vicious?
that guy.
No, but he's a big, tall, bald guy with a goatee, right?
Yeah, and he always played some crazy character.
Right.
Here's just a quick story for you. So one of the concerts that, well, it really wasn't a concert. It was almost more like a variety show that Mark and I went to, but there were musicians there, and they put together kind of an all-star band. And so it was Michael Anthony, who's the bass player for Van Halen. The lead singer was a guy do you know who the band Steel Panther is?
I know of the band. I know that name, but I can't think of their
videos.
music. I
They'll
can't
make
think.
you laugh. They're fantastic rockers,
Uh-huh.
but it's tongue in cheek and it's all about sex, drugs, and rock and roll, mostly sex. And it's really raunchy, but you can't help but laugh.
Awesome.
If you get offended easily, don't.
Oh, I've never been offended easy.
I'm telling you. But anyway, the lead singer from Steel Panther, because they had performed that night, and I don't know if I'm missing anybody else except the lead guitarist. And the lead guitarist comes out in something that looked to me like pajamas and slippers.
Right.
And he was moving slowly, and I thought, this guy's not going to make it, and he's going to suck. Anyway, it was the lead guitarist from The Doors, Robbie Krieger. And it's a little before my time, and I never really got the whole Doors thing. It's just a little too kooky for me or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just not my thing.
Yeah.
But when this dude started playing that guitar, it was freaking amazing. He was amazing.
Some old man in his pajamas comes out with the balding head, and I think he had the hanging on ponytail.
Yes.
And it was awesome.
And he moved so slowly, and you thought, this is going to be awful, and I'm so sad. And I just thought, these other musicians must be like peeing themselves because they're playing with Robbie Krieger from The Doors. So I don't know if they felt that way, but I felt that way for them. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, we were very fortunate. And this particular show that we went to was put on by the LA talk radio, or actually the LA rock station. Had a talk show in the morning with Mark and Brian.
Mm-hmm.
And this was their annual show where they have.
I think they started in Alabama.
They did. Mark and Brian did.
Yeah,
that's right.
So this was their annual was it Christmas show or just a rock show? The Christmas show, and they had an all-star band. Steve Lukather was there, and it was just
Flash.
It was great.
I always thought he was a dick until I saw him in his leather pants and that hat and that hair, and I'm like, okay, now I get it. I get it.
Wait, you saw his dick?
Hey, if you ever get a chance to talk to Mark or Brian, talk to him about. I heard you spent a lot of time at Louis in Birmingham.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I love Mark and Brian.
Louis is no longer, but it was the rock venue club. I remember as a kid trying to sneak in there so much, but their damn security guys were too good, and but that's where all the local bands played and all that good stuff.
That's pretty cool. We've got obviously places like that here. There was a place called Ben Gazzari's where all of the greats went, but we've been a couple of times to a place called the Mint, and the Mint is one of those places where hasn't happened to us yet, but I keep hoping that one of these times there's going to be one of those greats that's just going to come in because they're just kicking it,
Yeah.
and decide to get up on stage. Why am I never at that place where
Well, you don't go out that often.
That's true. I
I
leave
mean,
the
if you
house
were
for it to
doing,
happen.
if you were going once a week to
Yeah, if you're
nightclubs in
limiting
LA,
your
it would
if you're
happen.
limiting your odds to once
I'm
every
a bit
few
of an
months.
introvert.
She is an introvert.
You wouldn't necessarily know it by listening to the show, but I am a bit of an introvert. I like
She's
my
a home
space.
girl, meaning not that she's in a gang.
Yeah,
But her
she's
gang
in with those
stays home
Latin
all the
gangs. Are
time.
you in an
I like
MS-13
to
gang?
go out and have some fun, but then I also have to decompress.
You're an early riser.
Indeed, I start work at 6 a.m. and I love it.
There you go.
This time of year, though, when I leave the house, it's still dark out, and I do feel a little creeped out. I'll admit it. It's I mean, I feel, and I mean, nobody's awake. If somebody decides to rape me and kill me and have me for dinner, nobody's going to know until I don't show up at work or something.
You just got to start carrying a prison shank.
Is that what I need to do?
Yeah, I bought my wife a fixed blade knife for her for when she rides her bike.
Smart.
And I told her, I told her I'd rather be sitting there holding her hand while she's explaining to the cops why she gutted somebody versus the cop coming in and telling me they found my wife somewhere.
You're probably right. I should do that. I do have pepper spray, but it's in a little, like a little leather thing to keep it so that I don't spray myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, by the time, I get that out of there, I'm probably already being raped and killed.
Well, there's a problem with There's a problem with pepper spray as well. I train with a lot of police officers, and the problem with pepper spray is, and my wife has some, she carries some and stuff, but pepper spray does not stop you from fighting. And it usually just, yes. And they glorify it on movies and stuff like that. But most of the law enforcement guys that I train combatives with, they will mace the crap out of people, and they still 2 or 3 guys hands on with them, and they're just spraying, and they're still just fighting. All it is, they just can't see you. If they can get their hands on you, they're still fighting.
Okay, so shank it is.
Shank is you get your little 3-inch blade knife and you'll go home.
After my ex-husband moved out of this house, I found a pretty dangerous looking knife under our mattress. Hopefully it was for somebody that ever decided to break in and not for me.
It was probably for a break-in. I'm gonna get on his. I'm just gonna cross fingers that it was that. That's what it's for.
Well, he had opportunities, and I'm still here, so.
There you go.
But he didn't take the knife, so now I have it. But
you should carry
a quick shot.
There you go.
I don't know about my aim, but I'm quick.
I had that problem, but the doctor gave me a prescription.
That's right. You make sure you lasted. There you go.
Great, Chris.
Oh, it's been great. Well, speaking of being great, I'm getting messages to join another thing that I got to do. But
all right,
guys, it has been fantastic to have you, and I really hope this isn't a one-shot deal.
It's been great.
I'd like to have you both on again. If one wants to come on, if the other one's, like if one of you is out of pocket for something and you're just looking for something to do one week, we can do this again. If you both want to come on, either or, I'd just like to continue this relationship.
All right. Well, we're glad to be here on the Furlough Podcast.
That's right. Well, let me hit this. You guys hang on. I'm going to hit my exit music real quick, and then I'll end my recording on my side, and I'll say a few words with you off there, if you don't mind.
Terrific.
All right. So here we go. Back select 10. All right, everybody. We'll talk to you again next week.